Imagine a world where the most powerful country on Earth in 2021 wasn't the United States, but rather Spain. And instead of setting up military bases just in their own country, they also set up bases all around the world. Lots of those bases are in former colonies, but also there's a bunch in the United States. Just imagine this. You zoom into Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you see a huge military base. But it's not a U.S. military base. It's a Spanish base on American soil, with lots of homes for the Spanish soldiers and their families, powerful weapon systems, aircraft, all run by the Spanish military. Go inside of one of these bases and it's all Spanish restaurants. Americans can't come in here unless they work for the Spanish government. And then imagine 100 more of these, all throughout the United States on American soil, and hundreds of more throughout the world. Or shift the scenario a little bit. What if it was a country that wasn't our ally? A country like China. What if they had military bases, not in the US, but right up close to our border? Powerful weapon systems right off our shores in islands in the Caribbean. If you're an American, you have to imagine what that would feel like. If you're not an American, it's likely you already kind of know what this feels like. The United States has an extensive network of military bases outside of our borders. Hundreds of bases. I've been fascinated for a very long time about understanding these U.S. foreign bases abroad, but I've never actually taken the time to accurately map them. So let's do it. Let's map every single U.S. military base around the world. It turns out that's a huge task.
This is the story of the men of the United States Army who made this project possible, and of man's never-ceasing quest for knowledge.
This is a full armored division. To give you an idea of size, each of those small dark squares includes more than 1,000 men.
The United States military is bigger than any of us can really fathom. It's so big that even the U.S. military doesn't know how big the U.S. military is. Back in 2018, 1,200 independent accountants and analysts came in to try to audit the U.S. Department of Defense. They basically try to get like a paper trail of how big this thing is, how much money it spends, etc. And the Department of Defense didn't pass the audit. Like they literally did not have the documents or the knowledge to really piece together a full scope of what this organization is, how big it is, how much money it spends. So we don't know. Nobody knows how big the Pentagon is in all of its forms. All we do know is that objectively, it is one of the, if not the largest and most powerful organization on the planet and in the history of humanity. I mean, if you have objectively, it is one of the, if not the largest and most powerful organization on the planet and in the history of humanity. I mean, if you have a organization that's more powerful than the Department of Defense in the history of humans, like, let me know. I want to know about it. But as far as I can tell, if you have a organization that's more powerful than the Department of Defense in the history of humans, like, let me know. I want to know about it. But as far as I can tell, there have a organization that's more powerful than the Department of Defense in the history of humans, like, let me know. I want to know about it. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing bigger and more powerful than the United States military in 2021. And much of the U.S. military is not actually in the U.S., but is actually outside of our borders, all around the world.
This post is somewhere in Germany, overlooking a sector of the Iron Curtain.
One of the first things that Joe Biden and his administration did when they came into power a couple of weeks ago down the road was ask for an assessment of how big is our military presence around the whole world? What is our strategy? And what actually does this presence look like?
The department will conduct a global force posture review of U.S. military footprint, resources, and strategies.
Footprint. I like that. That's like a nice thing. Like, what's our footprint? How big is our footprint around the world? We don't really know. The Pentagon is going to start to try to assess that. So let's help the Pentagon out and try to map every single United States base around the entire world. Let's do it. It wasn't too long ago when I used to think that having military bases in other countries was totally normal. Like, doesn't every country have, like, military bases in other countries? Yeah, anyway. This was sort of reinforced for me when I was in college. I did an internship at NATO, with the headquarters of NATO, which was in Brussels. To get this job, I had to get a secret security clearance from the US government in order to enter the military base, which was NATO. This was really cool because there was always, like, people coming through NATO that I got to meet, like my diplomacy hero, Madeleine Albright, who used to be the Secretary of State, or this guy.
Great honor representing my country abroad for the last 37 years.
Good old Joe. Hey, Joe. Had no idea you'd be president someday. Anyway, the big benefit of having this secret security clearance is that I could go into any military base anywhere. And so on Saturdays, I would drive an hour from Brussels to a little village in the Belgian countryside where a military base had been sort of plopped down in the middle of the Belgian countryside, in between, like, stone walls and quaint streets and sheep and farming plots. Yeah, it's a little blurry in this map because it's, you know, a military base, and sometimes they blur the satellite imagery. Nothing I can do about it, sorry. And as soon as I entered into the base, went through all the security, and I was in the base, I felt like I had left Belgium and was suddenly entering suburban America. Welcome to the United States! There was a Taco Bell and movie theaters with American movies and all sorts of shops and, like, yoga studios and, like, a grocery store that had all of the products that I was very used to, all at the same price as I could get them in the United States, even though they had been flown across the Atlantic and brought to this place, which is a very expensive thing to do. It was a dream for me as a poor college kid living in Brussels and feeling a little bit homesick, to be honest. I hadn't really figured out culture shock at this point, so yeah, I kind of loved it. And I was, again, sort of like, doesn't everyone have military bases in other countries and they can sort of just go to their military base? And it was just, I was so naive.
All right, shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. Mr. Brother Sagalah coming back with another lesson through the spirit and power of the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Wadash, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Before I get started my lesson, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Wadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles who've labored faithfully in His truth and are the true teachers of Israel today. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Habayath Madawadah, the house of David, the brothers laboring to make their call of election sure. And to the Akim and Akwathim who also listen and believe on Hamashiach Yahushai, to you, I say shalom as well. So shalom, I'm going to jump right into it. As you can see, I had this video playing, and the title is the purpose of this video, and the premise of the lesson is coming from this title, which is the U.S. military is everywhere. We saw, you know, in the beginnings of this video, you know, how vast and expansive the U.S. military really is, which proves that this place is Mystery Babylon the Great Whore. We're going to jump into it, you know, through the spirit, through the spirit of the Most High. So I'm going to start in the book of Habakkuk, just proving that. Habakkuk 2 and verse 5, and it reads, Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, speaking of Esau, Edom, that's the he there in this verse. He transgresseth by wine, and transgresseth is speaking about going against the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. You know, sin is transgressing of the law. So the wicked transgress the laws of the Most High by wine. And what is that wine? The philosophies. And a major philosophy that's pushed from Babylon the Great is death culture, which is so-called democracy, you know, making all the people come together to be one, and freedom of religion, which under freedom of religion, you know, Esau, Edom, the man of sin, the wicked, you know, of the earth, they use that as an umbrella to do what? To push, you know, satanic worship. But then they'll turn around and call themselves Christians, you know, and believers, you know, in the God of the Bible, which, you know, they push satanic worship. If they were true Christians, true believers of the anointed, you know, they would be against such a thing. So they do that under freedom of religion. So continuing on with those those philosophies, which is the wine of Babylon, it goes into idol worshiping, and sexual promiscuity and lewdness, adultery, which is going into any and every religion or way of life, being covetous. The people in this land are very covetous, of one another and of things. And ultimately, this death culture pushes murder, because Esau, Edom, he gained his land through rape, robbery, and murder. And it tells you that in the book of, Ecclesiastes 10 and 8, that the kingdom is being translated from one people to another because of the unrighteous dealings and injuries and the riches gotten by deceit. So let's go back. Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also, because he, which is the wicked, Esau, Edom, transgresseth by wine, by his philosophies. He is a proud man. Esau is a very proud man, pertaining to the scriptures. He's a very proud man. And let's show that in the Holy Scriptures, that he, Esau, Edom, is a very proud man. So let's show that. This is the book of Obadiah, the first chapter. Starting at the first verse. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. So this is what the Lord got to say about Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sit among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. So when you look at that word small, it goes into insignificant. This is showing that Esau, Edom, in these last days, his power over the earth would weaken, and he would be looked at as small amongst the heathen, or insignificant. Hence why the scriptures say, let the weak say I am strong. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised, and nations greatly despise Babylon the Great, which is America. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. See, Esau has been deceived by his great pride, and we know that the Most High hates pride, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? See, that's the pride of Esau. That Esau believes that he's not going to be dethroned, so to speak. That he's not going to be brought down, from rulership. Verse 4, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, which that symbol has been used over and over again by the Edomites, going back to the Greek, to the Romans, etc., and other Edomite nations, just to name a few. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, speaking of their space exploration, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord Yahweh. So the Lord said he's going to bring Esau, Edom down, although they show themselves, to be the power of the earth and the hammer of the earth, and they try to act as if they're the Most High, because they sit in the seat, the rulership seat over the earth. So going back to Habakkuk 2 and 5, yea, also because he transgresses by wine, which are his philosophies. He's a proud man. We just read that he's a proud man. He thinks that his rule is going to go on forever. It says, neither keepeth at home. And what that video showed, the U.S. military is everywhere, is that's a very clear indicator of who Babylon the Great, America, is today, which is known as Babylon the Great in the Bible. Mystery Babylon the Great, New Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the land of the north. These are some of the names it's given. So because of its, mass, power, and influence over the earth, these things prove that America, has the world in subjection, which shows that America is Babylon the Great, because the Bible says that, this nation will rule over all nations in the last days, and we'll get that. It says, neither keepeth at home. So Esau, Edom, the scriptures say, neither keepeth at home. So let's go ahead and prove further why he neither keepeth at home. So this is the book of Micah, the second chapter, in the first verse. It says, woe unto them, which means destruction, that devise iniquity. And that's what Esau, Edom has done. He's devised iniquity over the planet, and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Job 9 and 24 tells us the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So it's in the power of their hand, meaning they sit in a rulership seat over the earth, over all the inhabitants of the earth. The Edomites will be ruling. 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, says that when Esau falls, then Jacob is going to rise, showing you who's in power in the last days. Micah 2:2, and here's the point. And they covet fields, the Esau, the Edomites, Esau, Edom. It says they covet fields and they take them by violence. So that's the MO of the so-called white man. So he was given that blessing going back to Isaac, who was Yahushua. He gave him the blessing of the sword and said he will rule and dwell in the fatness of the earth. And how will he rule? By the sword, by violence. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses, and they take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So the Edomites come and take over rulership by oppressing the people, by taking away their heritage and their dominion in their lands, and by setting up new laws in these lands, as we saw how expansive the U.S. military is, which just proves once again that America is Babylon the Great. That was the point. The point of the video shows and proves that America is indeed Babylon the Great Whore. America's Babylon the Great Whore that sitteth upon many waters. So let's prove that further. Going back to Habakkuk 2:5, it says, he neither keepeth at home. That's why there's bases, military bases, embassies, and consulates more than any other nation all around the world, which is the last count I've heard was close to 300 military bases, consulates, and embassies. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell. So when he goes and he oppresses a man in his house and his heritage, he is as hell. He destroys that place and is as death, because he brings death culture. Once again, his philosophies is wine, and cannot be satisfied because he continues on. He's continually done this everywhere he's went, whether it's Australia, in New Zealand, whether it's Africa, whether it's Europe or the Americas, etc. He's went in and had the same track record. He brings nothing but death culture and hell, and he cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations. That's why he neither keeps at home. He gathers unto him, the scriptures say, all nations. So all nations are gathered unto Esau, which is the man of sin, mystery Babylon the Great. But we'll continue to get that. It says it cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So all people, are in the midst. Esau is in the midst of all people. That's why America is known as a great melting pot. Now let's show that further. That Babylon the Great America, the U.S. military being everywhere, is the proof that Babylon the Great, is America. This is the book of Revelation. This is the book of Revelation 17. And I'm going to go right to the point and then start at 1. Revelation 17 and verse 15. And it reads, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, speaking of Babylon the Great, which is America, are peoples, is all the peoples of the earth, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. So everywhere where there's people at, Esau is in the midst. That's what we saw on that map. It showed all the different bases. And it gave a hypothetical that what if this was another nation spread about? What would the people of the earth say then? And that would prove that another nation would be. But in that hypothetical, it showed that was America, the power that America has, which will continue to show that, that America is Babylon the Great. I'll read it again. Revelation 17 and 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, which is Babylon, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So where the whore sitteth, is in all the earth, in the power seat of the earth. Now, let's go to 1. Revelation 17 and 1. And there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That sitteth upon many waters. So the great whore, Babylon the Great, mystery Babylon the Great, has been identified because she sitteth upon many waters. It told us in Habakkuk that she neither keepeth at home, but she heapeth unto her all people. And how do they do that? Through their bases, their embassies and consulates, showing their power, especially through their bases because, they put their forces there in those lands, So, as we continue on, Revelation 17, it says, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And the judgment that's coming is that Babylon is going to be destroyed. And we'll get that in Revelation 18, Lord's will. Continuing on, verse 2, Revelation 17 and 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, meaning they've done business and they have had to be allies with the whore, because the whore, has a complete dominion, and preeminence over the earth. And all the nations are in fear of the whore. We're going to show that. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And that wine, once again, is the philosophies that it pushes. That's the death culture, the democracy, the freedom of religion, which they push satanic worship, idol worshiping, sexual promiscuity and lewdness, adultery and covetousness. And it's a death culture. So murder, rape, robbery, and murder is in the midst of this place. So that further proves that America is Babylon the Great. So it says all the inhabitants of the earth are being made drunk because they all have to do business with America. And the reason why they all have to do business with America is because, once again, America is Babylon the Great, the whore, who ruleth upon all the nations of the earth. Now, that fear that the nations have of America stems through, throughout the scriptures. You see that, but it's in prophecy. So let's show that. This is the book of 2 Ezra 12. I'm going to start at verse 8, showing the prophecy that America will be identified and known because it will be feared over all nations that ever were on the earth. We'll get to the reasons why, etc. So now, this is 2 Ezra 12 and 8, and it reads, comfort me then, and show me thy servant the interpretation and plain difference of this fearful vision. And we'll get this fearful vision here in a second. So Ezra, or the prophet Ezra, is being, is speaking, saying, I want to know what the vision is that you set before me, speaking to the Most High. He says, and show me in plain difference of this fearful vision, that thou mayest perfectly comfort my soul. Verse 9, 2 Ezra 12 and 9, for thou hast judged me worthy to show me the last times. And who will be ruling in the last times? Esau, Edom, Babylon the Great. Verse 10, and he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. So this is the vision. Verse 11, the eagle, which is the symbol of the Edomites, which we read in Obadiah, the 1st chapter. The eagle, it says, whom thou sawest come up from the sea. And it just said that Esau, Edom, was in many waters in Revelation, the 17th chapter, and Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, which is the proof through the precepts of who the wicked is and who Esau, Edom is ruling in the last days, because it says, show me the vision in the last times. Verse 11 again, 2 Ezra 12 and 11, the eagle, which is a symbol of Esau, Edom, whom thou sawest come up from the sea, is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. So this was part of the vision that Daniel saw, but it's going to explain Daniel didn't have the whole entire vision. Verse 12, but it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee. So this was declared unto Ezra, what Daniel, all of what Daniel didn't know. Verse 13, behold, the days will come, speaking of the last times, that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all kingdoms that were before it. So I'll read that again here in a second. It says, behold, the time is going to come when there's going to rise up a kingdom that's going to be feared above all kingdoms before. Let's read it again. 2 Ezra 12 and 13, behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and that kingdom is America, Babylon the Great, New Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, the land of the north. These are all names given to America today. It says, there will rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all nations that were before it. So let's prove that America is feared above all nations that were before it. So America is Rome 2.0 in essence. And part of the reason why America is Rome 2.0 is going back to this prophecy here in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. Revelation 13, and I'll start at verse 11 and read down to 14. Revelation 13:11, and it reads, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." That goes into Esau, Edom, more specifically, America. It says, "And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast, which was Rome, before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, which was Rome," once again, "whose deadly wound was healed," meaning they came back into power during the time of the Renaissance. Verse 13, "And he doeth great wonders." So this beast, that will be ruling, that will be feared above all nations, it says he would do great wonders. And let's see what those great wonders are. "So that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men." And what was that fire that he made come down, from heaven unto earth, in the sight of men? I'll show you that in a second. Verse 14, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast." So that's the power that, Esau, Edom has had of the earth, America's had. Because we go back to verse 13, it says, "He does great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men." And those great wonders, that's a great wonder on the earth. Those great wonders is getting into this. It's getting into Hiroshima and Nagasaki when those bombs was dropped, going back to 1945. Now this goes into the Manhattan Project when you go into the history. And the Manhattan Project, covers the time where the top scientists got together, one being Einstein, and developed the atomic bomb during the time of World War II. Now, I have a little history here when you look it up. It says the United States detonated 2 nuclear weapons over the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August the 6th and 9th of 1945, respectively. The 2 bombings killed between 129 and 226,000 people, most of whom were civilians, and remained the only use of nuclear weapons in armed conflict. In the final year of World War II, the Allies prepared for a costly invasion of the Japanese mainland. So, when you go back into this history, this was that fire that came down onto earth in the sight of men. So he made all men fear him. So this is why, one of the reasons why America has great influence on the earth. And going back to the prophecy of 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter, they will be feared over all nations. Because no other nation has used, nuclear and atomic, weaponry in war on the earth. Only Esau, Edom has done that in the history of the world. Which further proves that America is mystery, Babylon the Great. But let's get a few more precepts and get ready to close it out. Because we've shown that through Revelation 13 and 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter, that these chapters link together, that they precept, they coincide. And once again, that fire coming down from heaven, there's a great fear that America has over all nations. So all nations have went into defense mode and now all the nations have been trying to acquire these weapons over the last 4 to 5 decades. So now, let's further show that America is Babylon the Great. This is Psalm 137 and verse 7, and it reads, "Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed." See, the daughter of Babylon, speaking of Esau, Edom, the daughter of Babylon, which is America. "O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." This is future prophecy of what's going to happen when, Esau, Edom is taken, out of his power seat over the earth. So they're called the daughter of Babylon. Why is that important? Let's go to the book of Revelation 18 and start at verse 1. Because Esau, Edom, in these last days will be known as the daughter of Babylon. Revelation 18 and 1, which the title of this is "The Babylon is Fallen." It says, "After these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." This is why all the nations are mad, are drunk, because all of them have had, through fear, to deal with America. And they can't compete with America because of, once again, its military power and prowess over the earth, its preeminence. "And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." And part of that, is getting into, the merchants of the earth is getting into the fact that these nations have to do business with America or they'll put sanctions on them. Because America, has many nations under sanctions, which directly affects their ability to do business, with the international community, with the world. And that's also through the power that America has through the beast system, going into, NATO and the EU. Now, continuing on, it says, "And I heard another voice," verse 4, "from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." And part of the elect coming back to the Lord is that they will be covered in these days. Verse 5, "For her sins have reached unto heaven." So the sins of Babylon the Great, have reached unto heaven, meaning the Lord, they're so great that he has to come and bring judgment, just like he had to do in the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is why America is known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt. It says, "For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquity." So Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has remembered, the wickedness of this place. So as you continue to read this chapter, it goes into the fall of Babylon, etc. And it's a beautiful chapter just going into that. But as we continue on, just to show that America is Babylon the Great, let's show that further in the book of Jeremiah, because it's also known as the land of the north. Jeremiah 16, starting at verse 14, and it reads, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt." So when we understand ancient Egypt, it's not going to be talked about, in the annals of history when we establish the kingdom of heaven. It says it's no longer going to be said that the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Verse 15, Jeremiah 16 and 15, "But the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north." So the Lord is going to be bringing us up primarily out of the land of the north, and from all of the places where the elect are scattered on the four corners of the earth. And it's going to proceed to go ahead and say that. "And from all the lands," so it says from the land of the north, which is America. So these are all the names: Sodom and Gomorrah, Egypt, which is New Egypt, the land of the north, Mystery Babylon the Great, all names for America. The daughter of Babylon. It says, "But the Lord liveth," Jeremiah 16 and 15, "that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north," which is North America. It says, "And from all the lands whither he had driven them, everywhere where the elect is, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers." And our land is the land of Israel. They're going to be brought and put back in the land of Israel, which is our rightful home. So with that, I hope that was edifying. Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai, Kol Halo Yamla, Allah Hayanawa Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai. All praises to our power, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, who is the God of the heavens and the earth and the 12 tribes of Israel. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you comprise the 12 tribes of Israel. You are the chosen people of the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai. Double honor to the elders and apostles who labor faithfully in His truth and are indeed the true teachers of Israel today. Peace, blessings, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect, Habayath Madawadah, the house of David, and to the Akim and Agwathim who also listen and believe on Mashiach Yahushua, while Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, to you, I say Shalom as well. Shalom.